Boom. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be talking about why becoming fit is more about a mindset than it is about muscle. Let's jump into this thing. Let's get this started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life. Prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros. All right, business bros. In a world full of quick fixes and magic diets, one man stands out, offering a real solution that fits right into the hectic life of dads everywhere. With a strategy tailored for real people and community that builds you up, he's here to show you that it's never too late to be the best version of yourself. Today, we're talking with the creator of Unbreakable Dads program, a man dedicated to turning everyday dads into their unbreakable selves. So get ready to break all your limits with Bryan Scudiere. Hi, Bryan. Welcome to the program, man.
Dude, that literally the best intro. You must hear that all the time. The best intro to a podcast ever. I'm hyped. It's 8:17 p.m. right now, and I feel like it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Let's rock.
That's what I'm talking about, man. That means I did my job. All right, let's start off with question number one. Let's get this thing off and rolling. Take advantage of that energy. First question I always ask is everybody who comes on the show is here to promote, sell, talk about what it is that they do. So what is that for you?
If I could sum it up in one sentence, we help busy as fuck dads lose 20 to 50 pounds in less than 5 hours a week of effort and without having to say no to their wife's cooking every day.
Ooh, no, that sounds enticing, dude. Because I know,
Yeah, man.
I get it. I'm on the other end. I'm like I guess workout fanatic. I wake up like at 4:20 every morning. I do like weight training and then I run. I used to run like 6 miles a day, and now I cut it down to like
Wow.
3 miles. And everybody looks at me like I'm a freaking psycho. But you got it down to 5 hours a week, and I don't got to give up my food. All right, dude. Before we
Yeah,
even
man.
get there, why even start Unbreakable Dads? What got you to that point?
So I've had a relatively long career. I've owned multiple businesses, and back in 2018, I was coming up on my 10-year anniversary of my first business, which was a district manager for a direct sales company. And I was a contractor, 1099. I managed everything from new hires to the books to everything. When I tell you I was working 80 to 100 hours a week, like 80 hours was like a light week. And in the same year that out of all the subset, it was kind of like a franchise, right? They had like an inner competition where like whoever sold the most products would be the number one sales team in the company. And in the same year that I was the number one sales team in the company, I also put on 40 pounds and I had this wake up call, right? We went to this big, gorgeous year-end banquet, rents out 5-star hotel, food galore, drinks galore, big celebration. In the morning of, I try on my tux, same one I wore for the past 9 years. And for the first time ever, it didn't fit. And that was like the huge wake up call that I needed that, hey, you can have financial success. You can have the white picket fence. Like I was planning on getting married. Like we were all the ducks were in the row. All the boxes were checked. Life was freaking perfect. Yet every time I locked eyes with myself in the mirror, I felt disappointed. Every single time I would be there brushing my teeth, I'd do that same thing that every pudgy guy does, right? It's like kind of stand to the side a little bit and be like, it's not getting that big. Right? Like, and then it would slowly get bigger and bigger. And then the moment that my tux didn't fit, and it's not like I had a backup tux, like who has a backup tux, right? So I had to go out and buy a new tuxedo. So it was just all of these culminating things. And I'm standing on stage giving my acceptance speech for this big 20-pound silver cup trophy, which is now in my basement collecting dust. And I was like, I got to change. So I did what everybody did in 2018. Right? I went keto. I was like carbohydrates
Yes.
I can't touch a carbo. And I'm actually Italian, so my last name's Scudiere. It's spelled wrong. I don't blame you for the mispronunciation.
My apologies.
No worries.
Scudiere.
I have never met anyone who gets it right the first time. So I imagine me, an Italian from North Jersey, telling my mom, Donna, my wife, "Oh, I'm not eating pizza ever again. I'm not eating pasta ever again. Like, no, thank you." It just wasn't going to work. So I did keto, like hard keto for like 6 weeks. And sure, I lost weight. But then I was like, all right, they're going to have pizza and ice cream.
Mm,
I want some. All right.
yep.
Oh, I'll just have it tonight, and then I'll get back on the horse on Monday, or I'll get back on the horse tomorrow. And then that turned into the weekend. And then I felt this level of guilt because now I feel like I'm failing. And
Mm.
then that created almost like this internal shame cycle because it was like, man, I was losing weight, but now I feel like I fell off. So how do I get myself back on track? And so I got myself back on track, quote unquote. And then another week went by, and then my wife was like, hey, let's go out to dinner. And she orders, it was like a pasta dish with some like great dish. It looked really good. And she was
The
like, do you
good
want
stuff.
some? And I was like, I really do want some, but like, I don't want to feel guilty. But then, I had a couple drinks and I was like, I'm going to have some. And then I
Yeah.
started having more and more. And then I'm like, and then the guilt cycle. So I was like, okay, so keto doesn't work. So what did I do? I went 4 Hour Body. Tim Ferriss just put out the book. It was like a novel, tried that out, did that for 90 days. And started going through this cycle. I'm not going to list everything because when I say I did everything, I did everything. P90X, T25, Weight Watchers. I did Nutrisystem. I did Factor Meals. I did Mail Me My Food. I did everything under the sun. And I would lose the same 15 pounds every 90-day cycle. And after about 3 years, the magical thing happened in 2020. That's what we'll call it. And
Magical.
yeah, magical is a nice way to put it. And I decided to get serious. And I was like, what's the real like science behind this? Because the whole idea of cutting out carbs or cutting out meat or only eating meat, which the carnivore diet was becoming super popular, just didn't seem to work for me because at one point I was in a new state every 90 days. I wanted to go out to
Mm.
eat. I was going to weddings. Like I had birthday parties. Like I had all these other things that would just put me in positions to fail. And then I would feel like crap about myself because I'm like, why is it like, oh, it's just never going to work for me. Diets don't work for me. That's what I started to tell myself. And so became obsessive. I applied the same level of obsessiveness that I did in my first business that brought it to be the number one sales organization in the company to like, what does being in shape actually mean? How do I become that person? And
And
dude, when
and
I figured out, go ahead. What were you
yeah,
gonna say?
let me kind of cut you off here because I got a couple things there. I mean, early on when you started talking about how you had your life kind of working out for you, you had wife,
Hmm.
everything's good there. I mean, I felt like it comes to that core three, your health, wealth, and relationships. And I feel like you had the wealth and the relationships locked in, but you also had changes in your own physique that were holding you back. It has started holding you back in your confidence level when you're talking on stage, start holding you back every time you're brushing your teeth, looking in the mirror. And I also like how you tried everything. And you mentioned P90X and T25, which yeah, I did those too. Tony Horton and Sean T, right? Sure, shout out to
Hmm.
them, of course. Um, and like trying all those things. I know there are a lot of dads out there who are like, dude, I done that. It didn't work. I tried that. It didn't work. I tried that. It didn't work. What about just, I mean, it's also like tried it, but does it really try it versus like stick to something and be consistent? I think there's a difference between the try. This is why it becomes, to me, dieting and fads are so difficult, because there are things that you try for a little while, you don't, or maybe you do see the results and then you plateau. And I think that's where you were at with your story, right? Like
Hmm.
you hit this plateau a number of different times. How do you break that cycle? How do you figure out, because it is about diet, it is about exercise, but what made yours different? 5 hours a week? What makes it different?
So the difference comes down to the customization of nutrition, right?
Mm,
There are times when cutting carbs and lowering calories, you can only do that so much. When I get a guy who's working 60 hours a week as a medical sales professional, comes home to two kids, and is working out, I'm not going to take him down to like, I can't just keep chopping calories. Like, oh, okay, now you're going to eat 1,600 calories. Now you're going to eat 1,500 calories. Now you're going to eat 1,400 calories, because no matter what, you're going to plateau,
mm-hmm.
right? And when we talk about the mindset side of things, we can get into that. It's actually one of the things I prepare my clients for is like, you will plateau. And at that point, you will realize why you hired a coach, because the only way to know how to break through that plateau, everybody's different. I had a guy, his name's Bryan, lives out in like rural Wisconsin. Okay, he's 56 years old. He owns a landscaping company. He does not have an output problem. He walks on average 14,000 steps a day just for his job.
Mm,
Okay. We have 30-minute workouts a week, so an hour and a half. Okay. Now, if we include actual like a little bit of meal prepping, which I teach my clients, you prep protein, you don't prep whole meals because you're not a bodybuilder, you're not going to eat 6 times a day. So you prep protein, right? Because that's the most important macronutrient. That takes an hour. So he's at 2.5 hours a week in terms of like on program time. Everything else is just natural energy expenditure. Well, we set him up with his first set of macros and he lost 15 pounds in 2 months. That's great. Totally plateaued. So then I tweak a little bit, his calories. I bring down, a little bit of the fats, a little bit of the protein, not by much, 150. Metabolism restarts cycling up. He loses another 10 pounds over the course of the next 6 weeks. So now he's down 20 some odd pounds. And then for the next 4 weigh-ins, he was at the exact same weight. Good. Hit a plateau. Do you know what I had him do? I had him go eat a pizza
mm,
because I
the
knew that he
good
was
stuff.
becoming, yeah, I don't, because he needed the calories. Your metabolism can only take so much. The whole idea of calories in, calories out, it's truthful, but it's not helpful. I think Stan
Mm,
Efferding says that. Okay. And while it is an energy balance of like how much in, how much out, you also have to like understand how to manipulate macronutrients. You have to understand how carbohydrates, work within the body, how fats work within the body, when to time certain things. And if he didn't have a coach, he didn't have somebody there, he's just guessing. What does he know? He knows, okay, I just got to eat less, move more, right? But that's not
yeah.
always the answer, right? Because if he
No,
kept doing that, he was actually going to probably start gaining weight because his body was going to start freaking out and being like, I'm not getting enough. We got to hold on to everything.
yeah, and it's funny. I hear this similarly to bodybuilders and weightlifters. There's a plateau when you are doing the same workouts over and over again,
Yeah.
where all of a sudden you feel like I can't get past this marker. I can't get past this marker. I think the body naturally understands, like, okay, this is my situation, and it adapts so that becomes its normal. You have to find a way to shock it so that it continues to move forward. Sometimes it's for example, I told you earlier, I went from running 6 miles a day, cut down to 3 miles a day, but then I increased my weight training. And so I'm like moving things around in my body so it doesn't get used to it. Recently, I started doing, instead of doing pull-ups, a bunch of pull-ups, now I just do one and I hold for as long as I can until failure, right? And like, it's
I'm under
just
tension. Yeah.
shocking. Yeah, time under tension. It's just changing the routine of what you're doing. And I'd imagine what you're describing works the same way when you're eating. Like, there's a reason why you are on diet and then you have to come off it a little bit and you have these good cheat days. They're not necessarily bad things, but the way you strategize it and put it in together into a plan, that is the way that you need to do that. But it's kind of hard. I mean, I wouldn't know where to begin with that. This is why we reach out to coaching.
Right. And so the way that I look at coaching is the same way that I built my business. Okay. You only have so much bandwidth, right? You own your own
True.
company. Okay. You cannot make every decision like if you ever want to scale and get to the point where it's actually worth having a business, right? Because everyone knows the first stages suck. And it's almost
Yo.
like, why the heck did I do this? I got rid of a 40, 50-hour job week to get a 120-hour a job week, right? But if you're ever going to get to the point where scale, you have a team, you have to learn how to delegate. And so but then when it comes to like business owners, they fall back into that initial mindset that got them to succeed, but also they're taking another full-time job. Okay, well, let me figure out my health and fitness nutrition. It's like, dude, just delegate it. Get all
Mhm.
the answers, shorten the learning curve. Because I did that. I tried to do that. I was like, all right, I'm trying to run my company and I'm gonna try to figure out all the ins and outs of periodization, progressive overload, timing refeed days, manipulating carbohydrates, all these other things. And it's like, dude, there's reasons that there's sections of books. There's business sections at Barnes and Noble. There's fitness sections at Barnes and Noble because it's an extremely deep topic. And so some of my best clients are guys that are too busy, that don't like have the time. Those are the guys I want to work with. I don't want to work with the 22-year-old who can spend 3 hours a day in the gym. I want to work with
Mm-hmm.
the guy who's like, I've tried it all. I have no time. Tell me what to do and I'll get it done. Because just like how bringing in, if I would, in my marketing department, right, I have an ad buyer. I have someone who specializes in that. I have someone who's better at that because that is a full-time job. That is a whole different level of thinking that like I don't have the bandwidth for because I have 100 clients I have to take care of. I have to worry about hiring new team members. I have to make sure that, I'm nurturing the, my sales process and everything along those lines. For me to take that on, and I got to be a great dad, and we got a second kid coming on the way, and I got to be a great husband, and I got to be a good friend. It's like, dude, just like monitor your bandwidth,
Mm.
right? Because people say, oh, well, what does it cost to work with you? It's like, well, what's your health? What's your health worth to you?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
longevity? Because you could sit here and tell me all day long that you don't have the time, you don't have the money, you have this, you have that. But if in 6 months I can add 10 years to your life, is it worth it?
A healthy man wants a million things. A sick man only really wants one. And when you're not
Right.
feeling good, when you wake up in the morning and you're tired and you slept all night, but you're tired, or you get that 3 o'clock hour and you don't have the energy, you start, loosening the notches on your belt or having to pick a different tuck size. Like all those things are detrimental. And, as you get older, and you do have kids, especially for, some of the dads, you have little daughters, you're like, hey, I want to, be there the day that they get married. I want to be there when they have grandchildren. Like all of a sudden it's a different mentality. And as you get older, it's funny. I go for my physical every year, and I've gotten now to an age where sometimes I'm like, hey, this is kind of a little uncomfortable. And the doctor's like, yeah, it's part of getting older. Like you got to make sure you stretch now. You got to, do these things. And that stuff, but as you get older, that body's going to treat you the way you treated it. And you got to be able to come in and make some of these changes. Now, earlier you mentioned a little bit how we want to talk about the self-talk, because I feel like sometimes we don't say the things that we need to say to ourselves. We find excuses or procrastination reasons why we're going to start on Monday or at the beginning of the month, or, at the beginning of the year, we don't make that next choice. What's some of that self-talk that maybe somebody can identify to kind of push them in the direction of, dude, this is you crying out to make a change?
Yeah. Well, so I always look at it, it's kind of the way the universe works, right? For every output, there's an equal and opposite input, and vice versa, right? For every force, there's a reaction of equal amount. So that's why I tell guys all the time. It's like, if you're really good at getting yourself to not do stuff, that means you're a great salesman to yourself, which
Mm,
means that all we have to do is just take that same energy it takes for you to sell yourself on not doing stuff. You'd be really good at selling yourself on doing stuff. It's just a switch of mindset, right? Let's
mm,
just use it differently. That's first and foremost. Secondly, most people think that making a change and doing all this stuff, they got to sit there and David Goggins it. I just got to force myself to do it. Like I'm going to crush it, and I'm going to shake myself in the mirror and be like, you got to do this, and like get all crazy with it. And look, discipline and willpower, they play a role in changing your life. Okay. But those are just a couple of the mental faculties, right? It's a finite resource. That's why the gym's packed on January 1st and empty by February 1st, because everyone's going in there
yeah,
like, I'm going to will this into existence.
it doesn't work
you're
out
gonna
that way.
it's not gonna work, right?
Mm-mm.
Like it's finite resource. And so if you're playing an infinite game, i.e., becoming healthy for the rest of your life, that is an infinite game. There is no end to it. The work doesn't stop, but you're using finite resources to play an infinite game. It's like, dude, you're just setting yourself up to lose. So what do we focus on, right? We focus on attaching new meanings to things. That's
Mm.
the number one most important thing that you need to do. It's the story behind it, right? It's not, I don't have time, right? It's, I'm doing this to create time. Because if you think about it, oh, I don't have time. Okay, well, what do you mean by that? Oh, well, I don't have an hour to go to the gym. Okay, well, 15 minutes can add a day to your life on the back end. So are you using time, or are you investing it and getting a return? That's the first story, right? The second story is, I'm just too busy. It's like, dude, I'm
Mm.
sorry, but if you don't have 15 minutes, you don't have a life.
Very true.
And you can't sit here and tell me you're too busy when, if I check your screen time right now, there's definitely multiple hours that you're scrolling. Okay. You've caught up on Netflix, or you've watched your favorite football team, you've watched your favorite Netflix show or movie or things like that. you have time. It's not time, it's priorities. Okay. Outside of that, right, it really just comes down to understanding the meaning of what you're doing here. Because working out to look good is surface level motivation. Working out to be an example and a role model for your children
Mm,
is deeper inspiration. And that's what we're doing here, right? Everything we do is about becoming an unbreakable dad. It's the identity structure. Because you can think all day long, but until you become an unbreakable dad, until you start to make different choices, until you start to operate with like that the decision making skills of that next level version of yourself, nothing will ever stick. Because
no.
everyone's started a habit for 30 days and then fallen off the next 30 days. What we're doing here and what I teach my clients is that it takes 4 to 6 months to create a habit that sticks. It takes 1 to 2 years for it to become a lifestyle, and it takes 3 to 5 years to become part of who you are. Now let's
Mm,
scale that back. Let's see, a lot of people who watch this are entrepreneurs. Let's take a look at your business, right? Your first 6 months, you're just
rough.
trying to figure shit out, right? Like
It's
you're just
rough.
building a couple
Yeah.
habits. It's rough, it's tough. 1 to 2 years goes by. Okay, I got a little bit of a foundation, or maybe I feel like I have like enough money coming in where I leave my part-time job, my side hustle becomes my full-time hustle, whatever it may be. I feel like I have a little bit of sustainability, i.e.,
Hmm.
lifestyle, right? But it's not till year 3, till year 4, till year 5, till year 6, where things are moving. It's all system based. Like it's just kind of the who you are, right? It's the same thing with fitness. That's why I love working with like business owners and people like that, because if you can just apply the same principles that you had in your business, just a little bit to your health and your fitness, you have no idea what you can accomplish in 3 to 5 years. I have a guy
That can
right now. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
that consistency factor is probably the most difficult thing to develop, right? Especially I like how you broke it down. The first couple months it's going to be tough because you don't really have the motivation after a week or so. Your body is tired, you're sore, it hurts in places you didn't think that hurt anymore. So it's
Yeah.
tough the first little bit, but you push through and you keep going anyways. After that first couple years, it's part of the habit. It's what you do, and then it becomes your identity. Then it's hard to pass up. One of the ways I personally made it my identity was like after my run, I would post a video, or I'd also post a screenshot of my Nike mile tracker, right? And it's kind of
Mhm.
was my way of saying, look, world, I did it. I didn't really care if anybody, commented or anything back, but it was me saying I did it. I posted it. It was complete. Like, it's one of those, like, if you don't take a picture at the selfie at the gym, it doesn't count. It's kind of the same way. If I don't screenshot my mileage, it doesn't count. But now, it's been 4 or 5 years down the road, it's part of my identity, and now it's really difficult to not do it when I wake up in the morning and I know I'm supposed to. Part of it is the habit, part of it is discipline, but the other part of it is people are going to say something to me if they notice I didn't go either. It's part of my identity now.
Yeah.
And I think that's comes with that consistency factor, and coaches really help you get there. And I want to make sure we get the plugs as well before we head out. If you're literally explaining what people are struggling with and how you're making it as simple as possible for them to take on these challenges. If people want to reach out to you and they want to find out more about how they can be involved in a program like this because they want to make a change and become unbreakable dads themselves, how can they do that?
Well, so one of the things I'm going to do for your listeners, if you're not at the point where you're like, okay, this is my guy, I want to apply, you can always apply to work with me at www.unbreakabledads.com. However, you can always reach me on my Instagram at Unbreakable Dads. It's me. I don't have a whole team that manages that because I'm not a social media influencer that has all these, the whole little like team and stuff like that. If you message, it's me. You can ask me any questions there. But most importantly, if you message me bros, BROS, I'll know that you're a listener of this podcast, and I got a special gift for you. So what I put together was a mini course, okay, on exactly what I did. Like I said, I used to be on a plane every like month to 2 months, right? So like I was traveling like crazy. I had 10 locations, dude. I spent half my life in the car for 10 years. Okay. So I put together a literal course step by step on exactly how, without tracking, without having to use MyFitnessPal, without having to use all the boring tools, how do you diet and eat while you're on the road and while you're traveling? Like, how do you incorporate the client dinners? How do you incorporate taking out the family? How do you win while you're on vacation? Exactly step by step on how to do it. I outline it for you and I make it as simple as possible. This is stuff that some of my clients use who are the big travelers. One of my clients, Jude, went to Paris for 9 days, came back, lost 2 pounds. By the way,
Whew,
still went out to eat every single night with his wife. Okay. And so
that's how
this
it's
is the
supposed to
exact
be.
course. It's a mini course. It's things that my clients do invest heavily to receive. I'm giving away for free for your listeners only.
Dude,
All you have to
you
do, by the way, is just message me the keyword bros, just so I know that you heard me on this podcast.
By the way, his social media handle, Unbreakable Dads, for those of you who can see it on screen, it's great. If you're listening or for whatever reason you can't see it on the screen, at Unbreakable Dads, same with the URL, unbreakabledads.com, and send them a DM. Say, bros, you're going to get that mini course because let's face it, summer is right around the corner, which probably means you're going to be on vacation. You want to make sure you keep yourself fit, maybe even losing some pounds while on vacation. That's why you want to make sure you send go ahead and send Bryan a DM here. Just say bros, and he'll send you that mini course. Dude, Bryan, becoming a different person when you're consistently doing these types of things, your body changes, your confidence changes, it leaks over into all kinds of different places in your life if you decide to take care of yourself. For final thoughts, when you get to work with people who have made dramatic changes in their life, not just in the health side, but in their life overall, any final thoughts you want to give our listeners who are hopefully looking to make a transition like that themselves?
Yeah. Biggest thing that nobody talks about in the fitness industry that is going to be the biggest driver for you and your success is going to be a community, and it's going to be the relationships. And that's why I look at Unbreakable Dads not just as a coaching program. While I do do a full customization, it's like a 30-minute onboarding call for each one of our clients just to make sure that everything is mapped out. I mean, we have guys open up their Google calendars and fit everything in, right? That we need to fit in. How do we customize it, right? Of course, there's mindset training, but the big driver, the reason why my clients get such amazing results is simply put because of our community. There's an old saying, as the water rises, so do all the boats. Dude, if you are struggling with your health and fitness and you take a look at the 5 people you spend the most time with, I can argue without even knowing you that 3, 4, or all 5 of them do not take care of their health. And so of course you're going to be the 6th one, right? You need to get around dads who are experiencing the same struggles, that have similar lifestyles, similar goals, avoiding the same pitfalls, overcoming, achieving, inspiring each other. That's what our community has in store. You get around my guys, it's impossible for you not to change your life.
It's infectious, man. It's infectious. Get around the right people. Anytime you want to make a change in your life, doesn't matter what it is. Sometimes, most times, it's changing your environment and being around the people who can get you to the position where you want to go. Maybe they're not there themselves. Maybe they are on the right path just as you are. But getting around people that are like-minded will help you accelerate that path to get you there. Bryan, thank you very much for being on the show today, ladies and gentlemen. Unbreakable Dads on social, unbreakabledads.com. And if you want to hit up Bryan, just shoot him an email, Bryan@unbreakabledads.com. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. And we're out.
It's over. Go home.
Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast. But not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz to get started today.